It's that time of year again, and by that time, I mean a new time. The first time of year. It's a new year. Fuck. But if we're gonna ring in a new year, we must first ring out the old one by screaming into our pillows loudly. But also by talking about the media that I liked so that I can forget about the real things in the world that are very bad. We're in danger. So let's drown out those potential sorrows with some positivity and beer. Nothing says Oktoberfest quite like a January at 2 p.m. I hate everything all of the time, so here is me meeting my one video a year niceness quota.
Let's all go to the lobby. Let's all go to the lobby.
Every year, I lament the fact that I don't watch as many movies as I used to, because I'm far more selective these days, and ever since I moved back to New England, I've barely stepped foot in the movie theater. Well, how did you watch these movies then? Well, I have... You can't see it. You can see it. I got a One Piece tattoo on my arm. That's unrelated.
Your sidekick has arrived.
I don't need a sidekick.
Every villain needs a sidekick.
I'm not a villain.
Nimona is one of those movies that you watch, and when it's over, you sit there and you go, I think it was important that I saw that movie. It's a really well done, vibrantly animated film about being true to yourself even when the rest of the world is disgusted by your very existence. I know a lot of people to whom that message directly applies, but another key message of the film is that it's important that you have empathy for other people. I'm glad the kids are learning that, and I'm not surprised that Disney passed on it, especially given their recent track record. Indy Stevenson does fantastic work. I'm super stoked to see whatever it is he's got cooking next.
I know this might sound crazy. I don't want to alarm you.
Nimona's a great movie for the kids to understand the importance of empathy and living true to your identity. I saw the TV glow as for the adults in the audience who might have forgotten about those things. I'm still thinking about this movie half a year after seeing it. Even with its obvious messaging that would be important to anybody who's LGBT, it could also apply to people who are just, terminally online. Like, don't lose yourself in media when there's a whole world out there for you. Like, enjoy it, but don't be blinded by it. And also, just, pay attention to who you're telling yourself that you are. That's probably a good idea, too. I loved this movie. It was easily one of my favorites of the year. Continuing with the important messaging of my favorite films of the year, we have Hundreds of Beavers, a 2-hour-long live-action Looney Tunes cartoon. I remember seeing other people talk about it on my social media, and I was like, this thing should just be a 5-minute skit. It's got no business being a feature-length film. I was wrong, and I was very surprised that I was engaged through the entire runtime. It's a real testament to the comedic timing and the escalation of the jokes that it managed to hold my attention as long as it did. The costumes are fun, the jokes are fun, and it feels like something that a comedy YouTuber would have made like 10 years ago without any of the Raid Shadow Legends sponsorships. It was a really fun film. I highly recommend it if you're looking for a laugh, and especially if you're planning on supplementing those laughs with substances.
Life's kinda like a video game, bigger than it looks and fundamentally strange, then you die.
So in past versions of this video, whenever I would write a new book for the year in question, it would automatically be entered into my favorite book of the year conversation. And sadly, the same must also be true for video games. Even though it released in the literal 11th hour of 2024, my video game, House in the Abyss, is my favorite game of the year and forever because I made it. And you should pick yourself up a copy. It's available on itch.io for only $3. Wow! $3 for a visual novel about 5 strangers waking up in a bizarre house? Sign you up. Please. Because it'd be supporting me in all of my weird endeavors. Anyway, just because my game was my favorite game of all the time, doesn't mean that I can't also talk about games that other people made. Ugh. Alright. Loath as I am to ever agree with Game Keely and his Jeff Awards, I can't deny a great game when I play one. Astrobot won their game of the year, and I'm mentioning it amongst my favorites as well. Astrobot is a nostalgic game for the love of the PlayStation brand and for the love of mascot platformers. The controls are silky smooth, the visuals are superb, and even the tiniest details of the haptic controller feedback are pretty impressive. I had a blast playing Astrobot, and its life cycle from tech demo to game of the year is truly inspiring, and I'm thrilled to see whatever it is Team Asobi does next with the concept. Okay, so here's a little pro tip from me to you. If you have a review series that gives out ratings on a 5-point scale, and you give something a 6, that has to be meaningful. Spiritfarer takes a lot of elements of cozy games and management simulators and blends them together with themes of grief, loss, and what it is for a life to have meaning. The land of the dead is full of people who are just trying their best, imperfect souls with wants, needs, and flaws. Some of them run away, their eyes wander, they struggle to remember, but at the end of the day, they all deserve rest. Spiritfarer is a powerful game that I highly recommend to everyone. Fans of management sims, fans of video games, people who aren't fans of anything at all. I recommend this game to everyone.
Sometimes I will just stand here and watch television for hours.
So at the end of every year, I yell at myself for my very bizarre TV watching habits. I've got such a soft spot for true crime docuseries and worse, conspiracy shows. Not because I agree with them, oh goodness no, I vehemently hate these types of shows, the presenters within them, and the awful way that their misinformation is presented. Like, seriously, that show Unexplained with William Shatner is one of the worst shows. I might make a video or do something riffing on it one of these days, because it is just the worst thing. 7 seasons, and every conclusion they arrive at is more idiotic than the one that preceded it. It is worse than Ancient Aliens, and I will stand by that, but I keep watching it, and I keep hating it. So I guess, don't think less of me is what I'm trying to say.
There are a lot of things that happen out here that you really can't explain.
That was a weird little tirade. What did you do that for? I had to, because it's set up to talk about this show. When this thing popped up in the For You section on Hulu, I got super excited. I was like, great, a new show that I can watch as I'm winding down for the night, because my doctor says it's always good to be in a terrible mood before you go to sleep. But instead, this show was actually, like, well-made and good. And, like, it isn't just conspiracy nonsense. It actually presents mysteries with a healthy amount of skepticism and belief. It isn't a show where there's just arguments that end where neither side budges because they're both so stuck in, even though one side is so clearly right. There's paranormal flavoring to all of the mysteries, but they're discussed in a way where it isn't just like some crank goes out and scuba dives, sees some eroded rock, and then claims that he's found an alien base, and the show's like, well, maybe he's right. That is a real thing that happened in a real show that I watched in 2024. And I know I'm part of the problem by continuing to watch these shows, but they need to stop releasing them so that I can't watch them. It's their fault, not mine. Surely I have convinced you of that.
By 1917, the Allies are just a few steps away from losing this war.
You don't always need to have good reasons for watching a show. I watched this series because a YouTuber that I like was a presenter on it, which is, I try to avoid History Channel because they often present sludge to their audience, but I actually quite liked this series they did on World War I. Unlike their bread and butter, which is World War II, and specifically their unending fascination with the particular group that lost that conflict, it was nice to see a series they did that was presented with a little bit of tact. Each of the presenters they got were knowledgeable, and the stories they focused on were interesting and impactful. I feel like World War I isn't as frequently discussed as its more horrifying sequel, and I understand that, but I think shows like this are what History Channel as a brand should strive for. Stories about history that are presented by people who know what they're talking about without any need to sensationalize, fantasize, or dramatize.
It's like one of my Japanese animes.
Hell yeah, let's get into the weeb shit. Last year I was really bad at watching anime, and I more than doubled the amount of cores I watched this year, but it still feels like I didn't watch that much, and I wonder if that has something to do with the fact that my finalist for favorites ended up just being a 2-horse race, and really it was like a 1-horse race, but an adorable little donkey also made its way onto the track, is slowly hee-hawing its way around, because, it's not part of the race. I'm still glad it's here. The donkey from that little analogy is Frieren. It was a series I started watching last year, and I finished in 2024, and I loved it. Frieren is a fantastic character. She's really funny in a sardonic way, but the moments where her kindness comes out are really wholesome, and the times where her ruthlessness comes out make her a really intriguing character to follow.
Kill yourself.
I love the relationship she has with the world, with her old group of friends and the new group of kids who spend more time taking care of her than vice versa. It's a wonderful series, I'm super stoked for it to continue, and I highly recommend it. The horse was Dandadan, and much like the show itself, you're probably wondering if that is a reference to cock. You'll have to find that out for yourself, buddy. Last year, my favorite anime of the year was the one that had the most incredible OP, and that remains the case here. But it's more than just the OP. I think Science Saru is a really underrated animation studio. They're not talked about a lot, and that is a shame because the animation in Dandadan is top-notch. Also, the characters in the series are just some of the best ones. The main relationship between Momo and Okarun is unmatched. The side characters are a ton of fun, and they add a lot to the dynamics of the main duo. I just enjoy watching all of these idiots be around each other. And that's the sign of a truly god-tier group of characters. I am eagerly awaiting the second season.
I was elected to lead, not to read. Number 3.
So, I didn't write a book in 2023, boo, and I didn't finish the one I was working on in 2024, double boo. I did make a game, though. I talked about that earlier. You should buy it. Will the book come out in 2025? Who knows? Maybe. I hope so. But I want you to know reading is important and you should read books because they're great. I love books. A really interesting YouTube video that I watched this year about a Doom mod got me to read House of Leaves. That's fantastic. That's fascinating. More people should follow that track. I finished 14 books in 2024, and I don't think a single one of them was released in 2024, because I am perpetually in catch-up mode of things that are over a decade old. I didn't know what to use for a trailer, so here's my copy of Devil in the White City. It's an actual book. I didn't read it on a tablet. Whoa, and there's a shoebox. There's shoes in there. I don't know if it's fair for your favorite book of a year to be one that's like 20 years old, but here we are. I was initially interested in author Erik Larson's new book, The Demon of Unrest, which did come out in 2024, but in researching that book, I saw that the author also wrote about the Chicago World's Fair and H.H. Holmes, both of which are subjects that fascinate me, and there have also been like years worth of rumors and rumblings about the Scorsese and Leo DiCaprio series about the Devil in the White City, and that intrigued me as well, all of which is set up to say that this book was great. There are a lot of fascinating, old-timey, shitty people that are involved in the story. Like, there's a lot of earnest artists who were treated like cranks because they cared about their art, and they were made fun of by stupid money people who ended up with nothing in their lives to show for that but gout. Haha, fuckers. Oh, and there was a serial killer there, too, I suppose. You know something interesting? People of the time heavily criticized the London police for not catching Jack the Ripper, a man who disappeared into the minutiae of a port city, but holy shit! The Chicago police force of 1893, a scant 5 years later, dude, H.H. Holmes tried to gift wrap himself to them like a centerfold, and they still couldn't catch that fucking guy. Ooh, don't mind me, just building a super furnace in the basement of my very improperly designed hotel and selling off body parts the day after the people who check into my hotel go missing. Fucking amazing. So if you followed my channel this year, and you fucking better have, you'd know that I did a Breaking Benjamin album tier list, and a lot of those albums from that band are some of my favorites of all time, and I was listening to them multiple times while putting the tier list in order, which means that just about anything else had a hard time breaking through because they were competing with that level of nostalgia. But there was one album that was released in 2024 that managed to break through the muck and win my heart. I'm actually wearing the shirt for it. This is for Carnal. Nothing More is a super underrated band. Stories We Tell Ourselves was a fantastic album from a few years ago that I had on repeat spins for quite a while. Spirits came out in, I think, 2022, and it was pretty good, but it didn't really move me in the same way. Carnal did. The first time that I heard Run For Your Life, I was like, oh, okay, I'm sold. And then there were excellent collaborations they did for the songs House on Sand, Angel's Song, and Stuck. Like, this was a top-tier album in a year where I wasn't really crazy about much of their competition, but I feel like even if I had been, this one still would have been at the top.
This ain't a song for the broken-hearted.
YouTube Music was kind enough to send me a recap for 2024, and according to it, my top 5 songs of the year are as follows. Number 5, Until You're Reformed by Chevelle. That's pretty deep cut Chevelle, but I do love it. Number 4, Chew Me Up by Saint Asonia featuring Terrible Johnny of Highly Suspect. Adam Gontier and Johnny Stevens collaborating? Yeah, hell yeah, sign me up, I wish they did that more. Number 3, Artificial by Daughtry. I'm not gonna lie, it's a catchy song, and oh my god, Chris Daughtry is fucking jacked. My guy looks like his shoulders are about to explode. Number 2, Bad Day by Fuel. Okay, so I went to a work event, and Brett Scallions performed at it, and he did this song, and I was drunk, and I sang it for the rest of the year. And number 1 was Dying Machine by Tremonti. Mark Tremonti is just one of the most underrated artists of all time. Okay, he makes good bands better and bad bands tolerable. I love him. So that's nice, it's all very well and good, but YouTube Music got it wrong. My actual favorite song of the year was Awakened by Breaking Benjamin, which isn't fair, probably. I was certainly high on the band when the song came out. I was doing the tier list for Breaking Benjamin, so I was eager to be listening to good songs by them, and Awaken is exactly what I love about the band. Every element that my favorite songs in their catalog have is present in Awaken. And it really excites me for the album they've got cooking, because it feels like it's going to be a throwback to the Phobia, Dear Agony days, and I'm 100% here for that. So take your time, Breaking Benjamin, because I'm sure you're watching. Make it good. Please. As if you were setting out to make it bad. Aurora only sort of counted as a new album, and it's been a while since Ember, so please make this one good. I'll be there day one no matter what. Thank you.
We're in the end game now.
And that was 2024. It sucked, but it was good for me kind of personally because I got to make my video game and I improved my YouTube content as a whole over the course of the year. I reconnected with a lot of old friends. I went to PAX Unplugged in Philadelphia for the first time, and hopefully 2025 will be just as exciting, and hopefully the people I care about stay safe, healthy, and the shitty people don't get the opportunity to make your lives harder. I love you all. Thank you for being here with me, and thank you for watching in 2024. This year showed the best growth this channel has had in like 10 years, and that means a lot. So I'm going to continue working as hard as I can to make it even better. So as always, the links in the description will lead you to my various social medias and Patreon pages. There are perks for those who aid in the never-ending struggle. Support me if you can, love me if you must, and have a great rest of your 2025.